Okay, let's unpack this. Today we're diving into a story that's maybe less about the crypto tech itself and more about this like incredible thing happening in finance. The rise of BlackRock's spot Bitcoin ETF, IBIT. Just quickly, for anyone maybe not familiar, an ETF, that's an exchange-traded fund. It basically lets you invest in something like Bitcoin using a regular brokerage account. Makes it way more accessible.
Exactly. And our mission here really is to get a handle on the sheer speed, the scale of IBIT's growth. Because, look, it's not just about this one fund. It signals a pretty significant shift. We're seeing a major asset class getting pulled into mainstream finance, and we need to understand what that means, for the whole market.
And meteoric is definitely the word. The
Right.
numbers are just, wow. Get this. IBIT has pulled in over 700,000 Bitcoin. That's worth around $76 billion. And it did this in just 18 months, right? Since launching in January 2024.
18 months. It's wild.
There's that quote from Nate Gerasi at Novatius Wealth Management. He just said 700,000 in 18 months. Ridiculous.
hmm
I mean, coming from someone in finance, that says a lot, doesn't it? What's that telling us about how institutions feel about Bitcoin now?
It's a huge validation, really. Shows crypto is being taken seriously by, traditional finance. And what's really fascinating is just how fast this thing climbed the ladder inside BlackRock itself, a giant firm. IBIT is already, I think, their third highest revenue-generating ETF out of almost 1,200 funds.
Wow, third highest already.
Yeah, and it's only about, $9 billion shy of being number one. For a fund this new to do that, it really speaks volumes. It shows BlackRock made a big strategic move, and it validates Bitcoin for these big institutional portfolios.
Okay, so it's not just growing in a vacuum. It's actively changing the Bitcoin ETF space itself. I heard it actually blew past Grayscale's GBTC fund, even though GBTC was there first for so long.
Well, absolutely. That head start didn't hold up.
Exactly.
GBTC, since it converted, its Bitcoin holdings have dropped a lot, by about 70%, actually.
70.
Yeah, down from maybe 619,000 Bitcoin to around 184,000 now. And just to show how things have shifted, Fidelity's fund, FBTC, that one's also past GBTC. FBTC holds over 200,000 Bitcoin now. So yeah, it's a major reshuffling of who holds the power in this market.
Right. Okay. So this is where it gets really interesting for the wider picture. This IBIT story, it's not just one fund doing well. It says something bigger about the whole market, doesn't it? How does this fit into all the U.S. spot Bitcoin ETFs combined?
Well, if you zoom out and look at all the U.S. spot Bitcoin ETFs together, their combined assets are now around 1.25 million Bitcoin. That's worth roughly $135 billion.
1.25 million Bitcoin.
Yeah, and think about this. That's nearly 6% of the total Bitcoin supply that will ever exist, the 21 million cap.
Yeah.
That's crucial because it means a pretty significant chunk of this fixed asset is now sitting with these big institutional players via ETFs.
And the total inflows just passed a milestone too, right?
Yeah,
For
yeah.
all the U.S. spot ETFs.
They did. Just crossed $50 billion in cumulative inflows. And IBIT alone, it accounts for a massive chunk of that, about $52.9 billion in inflows itself. That inflow has basically canceled out the roughly $23.3 billion that flowed out of GBTC. So you can really see how IBIT is driving things.
And it's not just assets under management. It dominates trading too.
That's right. Take a recent Monday, for example. IBIT apparently made up something like 80% of the total trading volume. That was 80% of about $2.9 billion traded across all the spot Bitcoin ETFs that day. Just dominant.
So after hearing all this, what does this incredible growth actually mean for you listening to this? How should you think about it?
Well, I think it means Bitcoin ETFs went from this sort of niche, maybe speculative idea to a serious financial force. And it happened incredibly fast. It's mainly down to the sheer speed and the scale of IBIT's impact. It's just a really clear example of how quickly a new asset class can get, legitimacy and get adopted widely when these traditional finance channels open up.
Yeah, and it leaves us with a pretty big question, doesn't it? In a financial world that moves so fast now, what does it signal? When these traditional giants adopt a new asset class this quickly, this massively, what does that tell us about the future of investing? And maybe just how fast can the old market leaders, the entrenched players, actually be pushed aside? Definitely something for you to think about as all this continues to unfold.